Hainan is the southernmost province of China. An island, cut off from the mainland by the Qiongzhou Strait and not far from the east coast of Vietnam, is sometimes referred to as the Hawaii of the East for the similarities in the climate and geography of the location. Year-round good weather and golden beaches have made it one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country. Most visitors to Hainan will head to the city of Sanya. Located in the south of the island, it is home to 40 kilometers of coastline, resort hotels, nature parks, mountain hikes, and attractive sea views. Sanya receives tourists from China and abroad year-round. The Lanhai Garden community is a residential complex in the city. Like many others in the area, apartments are bought as holiday homes, and many are rented out to tourists. Rooms here are not cheap, some being rented out for upwards of 3,000 RMB a night, around $450. However, this luxury holiday home would hit the news for the wrong reasons and leave a mystery which is still discussed today in China. On the 6th of May 2021, people staying in the garden community noticed a woman in a room on the 25th floor of one of the buildings. The woman, dressed all in red, had climbed the balcony guardrail and was dancing on a small ledge while looking back into the room. Balancing precariously on the ledge, she held on to the balcony one-handed, alternating her hands as she danced. This wasn't the first time the woman had been seen doing this. Residents had noticed the woman dressed in the same red clothes doing the same type of dance on previous days. The red clothing made her easy to spot against the backdrop of the building. Concerned, a number of residents discussed the matter on a group chat on Weixin, the Chinese WhatsApp. Some suggested calling the police, others contacted the garden community management to inform them of what the woman was doing. Some felt the woman must have been on drugs, given that she seemingly didn't see the danger to her own life or didn't care about it. Residents had identified the room for the garden management team, and a person was sent there to try and get the woman to stop. The door was opened by a man wearing a surgical face mask, while the woman in red continued to dance on the small ledge over the side of the balcony. The garden representative stressed to them the dangers of what they were doing. From outside the room, the woman said it wasn't a problem and they were just shooting a video. The staff member gave a nervous laugh, knowing there was little he could do himself to force them to stop. While residents watched on filming, their concerns would be realized. Screams rang out from people witnessing the event as the woman lost her footing and plunged to her death from the 25th floor. She landed on the ground in a grassy part of the garden. Security and the management team rushed to the area. Ambulances and police quickly reached the scene, and the medical team fought desperately to save the woman's life, but their attempts were in vain. There was nothing that could be done. The woman in red died on impact. As the police began their investigation, videos of the dancing and the fall spread across social media. The tragedy being seen by people all over the country, almost before the police had even begun trying to find out what had happened. The woman would eventually be identified. She would be referred to as Shi Momo, Shi being her family name and Momo as a means of protecting her identity until whatever family she had could be informed. The character Mo is often used by police to protect individuals' identities. In China, she is still more commonly referred to as the woman in red. Shi Momo was 41 years old at the time of her death. The 2,000 RMB a night room had been rented out under her name. She was from Shanxi province in the north of China, home of the ancient city Xi'an and the terracotta warriors. She was said to have arrived in Sanya purely for tourism purposes. On searching the room, the police would find a note left by Shi Momo. This was said to be an unaliving note. In it, there were only two requests. Firstly, that any of her healthy organs should be donated to those in need. Secondly, that her ashes should be scattered into the sea. At the bottom of the note was a signature that appeared to have been hastily written. A few days later, the police would essentially end the investigation, putting this down to nothing more than a tragic event. Shi Momo was cremated, her parents making the trip from Shanxi to carry out their daughter's wishes with the ashes. However, as the police released more information about the investigation, it left people with a lot more questions than answers about this strange, tragic incident. As previously mentioned and seen in a video, the woman was not in the room alone, at least at some point shortly before her death. The video taken by the garden staff member to warn her of the danger of what she was doing shows the man opening the door. Videos and photos taken of Shi Momo by other residents also show a man in the room. The footage taken on a different day shows a man in the balcony doorway holding up a phone as Shi Momo danced. However, in the police report of the incident, there was never any note of the man being in the room when they arrived. There is no record of any interview with the man, and to this day the identity of the individual remains a mystery. This has brought up a lot of questions about the man and his relationship with Shi Momo. There is also the mystery of what happened to him between being recorded by the staff member and Shi Momo falling. The note supposedly left by Shi Momo was heavily questioned when images of it were made public. Firstly, such a personal note being printed out and not handwritten is seen by many as suspicious. There are no reasons given, nor any messages left to anybody she was close with to explain why she had made the choice to end her life. The language used was businesslike, only giving instructions for what to do when her body had been discovered. Folds in the paper along with dirty marks gave the appearance that the note had been written some time ago. It looked like the person who had printed the note out had been carrying it with them for a while. In contrast, the signature looked as if it had been written in a hurry. The characters in the name unclear, and the line marked down after the signature stood out as odd to many people. Lines like this are a habit people have when signing financial documents, not something you would see on a personal note. Single rooms in the community, like this one, cost 2,000 RMB a night, around $300. Shi Momo and the man had been occupying the room for several days before she fell from the balcony. However, this room was what is referred to as a black hotel. Black hotels are rooms that are registered as residences and do not have a business license to operate as a hotel or B&B. The pair had been staying in the room for at least 3 days, and yet the room was remarkably clean. The bed looked like it had barely been slept in, and toiletries provided by the landlord remained unused. The only clear signs that the room was occupied at the time were a food delivery order for 2 meals that remained uneaten and cigarette butts and toilet paper in both an ashtray and garbage can. There was also a small bottle found on the coffee table, which police described as having a medicinal odor. The clothes the woman wore while she danced on the balcony would also get a lot of attention, not just because the bright color made her stand out. Red is an important color in Chinese culture, viewed as a symbol of good fortune or wealth. It is the main color of the national flag, and rather than give out gifts, on special occasions people will give each other hongbao or red envelopes containing money. Given its generally positive connotations in Chinese culture, it isn't especially unusual for people to wear red in the country, but given the circumstances, people paid extra attention to what Shi Momo was wearing as she danced. As people inspected the footage closer, it appeared that the clothing being worn looked more like a hooded cloak rather than a dress or long coat. Some people were quick to make a connection to the Taoist religion. Red is an important color to followers of Taoism, many believing that it can ward off evil spirits and death. And the clothing worn, if it was a hooded cloak, did resemble traditional dress worn in ceremonies in Taoism. For those that believe in the supernatural, of which there are many in China, the incident conjured up images of the vengeful red ghost. In some folklore, it is believed that if a woman dies wearing red, she will return from beyond the grave as a malevolent spirit, to take revenge on those that wronged her in the past. With so many unusual elements to the incident and the police giving little information to give any explanations from them, a number of theories have cropped up as people look for answers themselves. A homicide, accident, or just a woman who tragically made the decision to end her own life. While they couldn't say with absolute certainty that Shi Momo came to Sanya to end her own life, the police decided that this was the most likely reason for the tragedy. And there are many who agree with that judgment. If it is the case, then it could give the police reason to not release too much information about their investigation. Understandable, but it does create the side effect of increased speculation. The state of the paper her note was printed on could simply be put down to her, for whatever reason, having made her decision some time ago and keeping the paper with her. It may have been that she was waiting for an opportunity to go to a location by the sea, so her final wishes could be carried out. In 2021, pandemic measures were still in place, so travel between provinces was more restricted at the time. The red clothing could have been because she followed Taoism and wanted to give herself protection in the afterlife. Some people felt that the decoration of the room itself gave this theory more weight, for many people familiar with Taoist traditions. With curtains hanging down on either side of the bed, and the circular decoration on the wall, a number of people would comment that it looked similar to how hall of mourning would be prepared when having someone's funeral. The identity of the man sharing the room with Shi Momo could have been kept private because police didn't view this as a criminal investigation and saw no need to release the information. Perhaps he was just someone Shi Momo trusted and asked to keep her company in her final days. The 2,000 RMB a night room, the mysterious contents of the bottle, the dance on the balcony, could just be the actions of someone who wanted to enjoy her last days to the fullest. That being said, Many people were left unconvinced by the unusual note, without which there was little to suggest Shimomo took her own life in such a public manner. A homicide is by far the most popular theory for people who followed the case online, and the fingers point to the man in the room and his apparent disappearance after the fall. The video taken by the garden staff member, after management were alerted by residents, is the best look we get at the man, but this is only for a moment. After opening the door, he moves out of frame as if he wasn't keen on being filmed. As the staff member warned Shimomo about the dangers of what she was doing, the man stayed hidden out of sight behind the door. Even with this video being released, no one has claimed to know the identity of the person. Given how high-profile the incident was at the time, being the top trending video on TikTok, it seems unusual that there hasn't been any information about his identity in the past 2 years. It wouldn't be long after this interaction that Shimomo fell to her death. As far as anyone knows, the men left the room soon after the fall, without calling for an ambulance or reporting it to the police. The video from the staff member is evidence the man was in the room that day. Evidence from days prior and the words of Shimomo prove that they were filming videos. None of the footage shot in the room has been released, and it is unknown if the police even found any. This could suggest the man left with the device the videos were recorded on because they contained something he didn't want the police to see. Shooting videos on multiple days also casts doubt onto the first theory. With the bright red clothes, it is reasonable to believe that Shimomo must have been aware that people were likely to spot her. If that was the case, it is also reasonable to assume that people would report her actions to the garden management or the police, as was done the second time she was seen. If her intent was to fall, then it seems strange she didn't do it the first time and took the risk of being stopped. Apart from the man not being in the room when the police arrived, there is little else to support the theory of homicide. In fact, there is more from the investigation that pours cold water on the idea. The food order for 2 meals found in the room would suggest that the pair planned to eat at some point. The receipt not only gave the man's family name but also his phone number. In China, if people want to sign up to any app, they are required to do so with their ID card. The account will be linked to their phone numbers, which also need to be registered with their ID. If the man did have something to do with the death of Shimomo, he must have known the food order could identify him. So leaving it in the room makes little sense. Even if you want to think he panicked, it wouldn't have been difficult for the police to track him down, especially when this was a time when travel between provinces was more closely monitored. With the substance in the bottle never being publicly identified, many people quickly came to the conclusion that it was some kind of illegal drug that Shimomo had taken that caused her actions that day. If that was the case, it provides further evidence that the man wasn't behind the death of Shimomo. China's strict drug laws mean that a person who knowingly shares a space with someone using narcotics can be punished almost as harshly as the person using it. If indeed the bottle did contain something like that, the police would have had reason to find him, even if they couldn't prove he caused the death of Shimomo. The reality is, even though the man wasn't in the room when police arrived, it can't be said for sure how long he left the room before Shimomo fell, as he had previously been seen recording the dance on the balcony. The man can't be seen in any footage taken by neighbors on the day of the fall. The man could have simply left the room for any number of reasons, and Shimomo fell from the balcony while he was out, the man having no idea what happened in his absence, not finding out what had happened until he returned. While homicide is the more thrilling theory, looking closer at the evidence probably shows it was unlikely. Another sticking point for the first theory is the fact the pair were making videos. If Shimomo intended to fall from the balcony, then what were the videos for? This question has caused people to reach an obvious conclusion. This has become one of the most famous or infamous logos in the world. Douyin in China or TikTok internationally has become an almost inescapable part of modern culture. People can be catapulted to fleeting stardom with just one 20 or 30-second video which goes viral. That short video that gains the attention of the public can change someone's life, giving the creator a taste of fame, and in China alone hundreds of millions of followers. Users are desperate to find the magic formula that makes a video go viral and give them at least a taste of being a celebrity. One of the most popular types of videos are those of dances. However, with the sheer amount of content being uploaded on a daily basis, it is extremely difficult for someone to get their video noticed. This can cause people to look for ways to stand out from the crowd. Users will often try to get attention by wearing something that can help them get noticed. Another way could be to do something dangerous or daring. Many people believe this is what Shimomo was trying to do. her clothing giving her an identity as the woman in red, and the dance on the balcony ledge something people would stop and watch. However, content like this would not have been allowed to be shown on TikTok, and if uploaded, it would be taken down before it could find any viewing traction. Regulators would be too concerned by the potential repercussions if a video like this became popular and other people began to copy it. Therefore, the idea that she was doing this for social media clout seems unlikely. To support this, the footage shot by the man from inside the room on the first day of Shimomo dancing was never found online on any social media or video streaming sites. So once again, the question of who or what the videos were for goes unanswered. Since the police never released any footage taken from inside the room or said they had found recordings of the dancing, this frustratingly will be another question left without an answer. In videos of the room taken by police after the fall, a high table can be seen on the balcony, close to the guardrail. It is a fairly good assumption that this was how Shimomo was climbing out onto the ledge. It is clear that the first time neighbors spotted her dancing, someone was in the room with her at the time. The day she fell, although the angle of the footage taken doesn't give as clear a view, there doesn't seem to be anyone standing in the doorway. This does seem to suggest that perhaps there was indeed no one else in the room with her around the time of her fall. It isn't a stretch to think that Shimomo lost her balance while dancing, or while trying to climb over the guardrail. If there wasn't anyone there to help her, it would be easy enough for her to lose her footing and be the victim of a tragic accident. Frustratingly, there will probably never be a clear answer for what exactly happened on the balcony that day. Each of the main theories has evidence to support them, but also evidence that casts plenty of doubt on them. Whatever the reason Shimomo was shooting videos that day, she would never know the amount of viral fame her actions would receive, whether that was the intention or not. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider like, commenting and subscribing. And we hope to see you again for the next one.